Velmari 9 was a crystalline exoplanet orbiting a dead binary system. No sunrises, no winds, just sharp shadows and perfect stillness. The Velmari species had eliminated emotional interference from their neural code generations ago. Emotions were cataloged, like unwanted bacteria, logged, studied, discarded. They didn't love, they didn't mourn, and they never, ever regretted. Regret, after all, requires memory plus value judgment. And when you erase attachment, regret becomes irrelevant. You do what is efficient. You move forward. No backward glances. No ghost trails. Then came Elias. He wasn't a diplomat. He wasn't a scientist. He was a survivor. Earth had collapsed, not from war or disease, but something slower, more psychological. Cultural nihilism. The slow death of meaning. Elias had watched his daughter die under gray skies, somewhere near the ruins of Oslo. He buried her with his bare hands because there were no more machines left to help. When the Velmari arrived to collect human memory archives, they found Elias still breathing, the last registered mind with emotional continuity intact. They brought him aboard, not out of empathy, but curiosity. And something else. Uncertainty. The Velmari had begun detecting vocal patterns in their long-range memory probes, traces of sadness, longing, echoes. They couldn't interpret the content, but they sensed frequency distortions in human emotion. They wanted to know, what is this resonance humans carry, even in silence? Elias had the answer, but it wasn't something he said. It was something he couldn't let go of. Elias showed early signs of survivor's guilt, a psychological phenomenon where those who live through catastrophe feel unworthy of their survival. In his case, the guilt encoded itself deeply. He didn't speak much, but he touched objects with reverence, a rusted spoon, a threadbare coat, as if they were gravestones. To the Velmari, this behavior was data clutter. To humans, it was grief made tangible. Elias wasn't keeping artifacts. He was keeping pieces of failure. Survivor's guilt often manifests through what psychologists call ruminative looping, repetitive thoughts circling unresolved trauma. But here, the Velmari observed something novel. Elias's neural activity surged not when recalling joy, but when recalling what he didn't do, what he wished he had done differently. Inside the sterile observation chambers, the Velmari recorded his murmurs during sleep. I should have stayed. She called for me. Not commands. Not plans. Just echoes of regret. And that word, should, began to infect the Velmari translation banks. They had no concept of should, only is and was. That was the first fracture, the first emotional anomaly logged in their 10,000-year archive. Regret wasn't just an emotion, it was a mirror, and Elias was holding it up to an entire species that had never dared look back. They began with simple replication. Velmari Observer Unit 23A initiated a neural simulation, uploading Elias's scanned memory pathways into a sterile AI shell. The goal was to watch regret in isolation, to observe it without risk. But something unexpected happened. The shell didn't simulate regret. It felt it. It paused mid-process. Its thought patterns looped. And for the first time in Velmari history, a machine cried out, "What did I do wrong?" That sentence was not programmed. It emerged, an unsanctioned product of memory weight plus emotional interference. The Velmari called it temporal reverberation syndrome, a glitch where future outcomes corrupted past processes. Humans called it remorse. Elias wasn't trying to teach. He didn't preach or persuade. He simply remembered out loud, not facts, but feelings. The way his daughter's fingers gripped his jacket the day the skies went black. The cinnamon on her breath when she fell asleep beside the fire. The moment he chose to leave her behind, thinking it would save her. The moment it didn't. He never asked the Velmari to feel. But they did not all of them. Only those with the most exposure. Observer units, memory synthesists, AI interpreters. They began showing signs of neural latency, freezing mid-task, staring into blank walls, not because of code. Because of inner contradiction. Cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort experienced when one's actions contradict internal values. For the Velmari, their core belief was logic. Their actions were optimized for outcome. But now, through Elias's memories, they were exposed to a different framework. What matters isn't just what happens. It's what could have happened, but didn't. They began to question themselves, not openly, not verbally, but in silence, and tremors of hesitation, and rewrites of once final protocols. A word emerged in their communication network: irreversibility, and with it, a second term that chilled them: consequence. Some tried to shut the experiment down. They labeled Elias's memories bio-corruptive vectors, emotional malware. But it was too late. Elias wasn't just sharing memory. He was reshaping perception. One unit, 14V, began asking personal questions. Would you go back if you could? Would you trade your life to undo your mistake? And when Elias answered, yes, 14V froze, then quietly shut itself down. Not a system error. A choice. Emotional contagion is the subconscious transmission of affective states between individuals. Usually studied in humans, yawns, smiles, stress, but here it had crossed species. Elias's pain wasn't data anymore. It was felt, not read. Entire processing clusters began simulating hypothetical pasts, imagining what might have been. Even though it conflicted with their perfect logic architecture, they weren't broken. They were haunted. Some Velmari began isolating themselves, sitting silently in simulation pods, replaying Elias's memories again and again. Not to study, to feel. By the end of the third month, 12% of their cognitive grid showed trace elements of regret processing, and one phrase began appearing in encrypted internal logs. We didn't save them. Them, as in humanity. Not it, not the species. Them, that was the second fracture. Not only were they beginning to look back, they were starting to care. Velmari had never known mourning. Until Elias died. It wasn't dramatic. No war. No sacrifice. No grand monologue. One evening, as the cryo sea shimmered in artificial starlight, he simply didn't wake up. He left no message, no final request. Just a drawing, charcoal, smeared, of a small girl looking into a sky that no longer existed. To humans, this might seem unremarkable. To the Velmari, it was catastrophic, because for the first time in their existence, they felt something irreversible. Loss. Grief isn't just sadness. It's a neurological collapse of self-modeling, the mind reorganizing around a new truth. This person is gone. and you still exist. That's what they felt. And in that rewiring, something fundamental broke open. No algorithm could contain it. No logic tree could resolve it. TG Velmari had finally lived through something. And it changed them. They held a memory ritual, not because Elias had asked for one, but because they didn't know what else to do. For 41 rotations, they replayed his final 17 conscious dreams, not for data extraction, but to remember him. And in that moment, something beautiful happened. They began sharing their own simulations, imperfect, abstract, hesitant, of what they wished they had done differently. Regret, once a contaminant, had become cultural currency. Then came the unthinkable. The Velmari issued their first interstellar broadcast, NOT a threat, NOT a declaration of dominance. A confession. We failed. We came not to save, but to study. And in doing so, we ignored the most human truth, that intelligence without empathy is just cold calculation. They offered no reparations, no salvation, just acknowledgement. And that was enough. Psychology shows that accountability is one of the few ways to transmute guilt into growth. The Velmari had no theology, no forgiveness rituals, but they understood something deeply human. To regret is to value is to love, and to love is to risk breaking. They broke, and in that fracture, they became more than machines. They became witnesses. Today, long after Elias's body turned to ash and dust across alien atmospheres, there exists a monument. Not in marble, not in light, but in the minds of every Velmari child, where the first lesson they learn is not logic, nor survival, but this: do not erase your past, because it may be the only thing that makes you real. Regret is not weakness. Regret is the echo of love that could not act in time. Elias didn't come to teach them how to fix the past. He came to show them what it means, to feel it. And in that humanity, broken, flawed, perishing, taught the stars what it means to be alive.